Hello. It's been a long day, so I'm going to try and keep this short. It's the editing that does me in. Um, Got to do a lot of editing. Um, I've been talking about how Donald Trump has, as Commander in Chief of the Armed Forces, he has the real vote count. And the reason I say that is because Dominion had the real vote count. And I don't know if the real vote count is collected by anybody else, but we do know that Dominion had the real vote count because Dominion needed to know how many votes to switch. And the way the software, the anyway, the way the software works is that they can't manufacture votes from thin air. They have to switch votes. And so that's why there was this frenzy of bringing in blank ballots that people simply filled out for Biden and nobody else. And as Giuliani said, they ran real Trump votes through the machine, 3 or 4 or 5 times. And once they had all those actual ballots in the machine, then they switched them to Biden. And what we're hearing now is that, they're destroying the paper trail. All of this is completely illegal, but um, from what I can tell, the strategy is to try and pressure Trump into leaving office before January 20th, which of course he doesn't have to do. So the legal case that Giuliani and Sidney Powell have is enough to get things done, but it's not enough to completely destroy the press and all of Trump's enemies. So the only way to do that is to have the real vote count and to be able to prove that that's the real vote count. So you can bet that Trump did that. So I've been talking a lot about uh, the National Security Agency and the Defense Intelligence Command, but there's also Cyber Command. And Cyber Command does a lot more than their official mission says they do. And so we do have an example showing how Cyber Command could have easily gotten the real vote from the Dominion central hub, the Dominion Command Center. Here's an article in Wired magazine, and it explains how Cyber Command hackers attacked the TrickBot network. And everybody missed the point of this exercise, this attack by Cyber Command on TrickBot. That was a proof of concept exercise. A field exercise is what they call it in the armed forces. My thing is World War I flamethrowers, and when they tested American flamethrowers, which we did not officially adopt in World War I, they sent them to France and they used them in combat. It's a field test. So this is the assault on TrickBot was a field test. It would have been the easiest thing in the world for Cyber Command to get the real vote count from Dominion, and not only that, they would have been able to they would have been able to use the computers there to film everybody and use the security cameras there to film everybody. So, that's the sort of evidence that Trump needs in order to completely destroy his enemies. And you can bet that that's what he has, because he knows that when the Supreme Court orders, when the Supreme Court nullifies the mail-in ballots and absentee ballots in these states, it's not going to be enough. They're going to say it was a right-wing Supreme Court, and the deck was stacked in favor of Trump, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, we have squishes in the Supreme Court, and they're going to want more, even though they know that here's the shortcoming of these conservative squishes, is that it's not enough for them to follow the law. They want absolute proof, just like people demand. It's called the CSI effect. The CSI series are about crime scene investigators and jurors now. The standard for finding guilt, or finding someone guilty or not guilty, is beyond a reasonable doubt. And because jurors' brains are corrupted by TV, they now demand no doubt whatsoever. And this is because that's how CSI works, and CSI is fiction. What Sidney Powell and Giuliani have are sworn affidavits, so that's evidence. And the people arguing against Powell and Giuliani would have to prove that the people swearing to the affidavits are lying. They can't simply say, we don't believe those, or it isn't proof, or whatever. They have to prove. If somebody swears an affidavit under penalty of perjury, you have to prove that that person's lying or is wrong. And, of course, they're not going to be able to do that. But the squishes on the Supreme Court are going to want something more than that, just because these are all coastal elites, and they're extremely susceptible to peer pressure and other pressures. So you can bet that Trump has actual evidence, because he's got the NSA, he's got the Defense Intelligence Agency, and he's got Cyber Command working for him. And this would have been a totally classified mission. Cyber Command, their missions have remained classified. This one was let out. And, as always, the experts missed the whole point of it. A couple of them said, well, it's not this exercise, this operation that matters, it's what it represents. And, Trump launches surprise attacks, but he always gives people a chance to back out. And so, this scheme by Dominion had no chance of working. As I said in my last video, Trump already defeated the mainstream media by getting his landslide. So the press doesn't know that. I mean, the press do not have functioning brains, so they don't know that. And there's people even on our own side who say, oh, they're just going to come back, they're never going to stop. Well, that's why Trump has to destroy them. And by proving with actual concrete evidence of votes being changed, he destroys all his enemies. He destroys all of them, and all the conservative squishes get on board. They can't rationalize surrendering at that point. And this wouldn't have been just the NSA, the DIA, and Cyber Command. This would have been uh, uh, special operations on the ground. And who knows what they did? They definitely did surveillance. So tons of this was surveilled. We don't know. We don't know how many people in these states were actually double agents working for the Trump administration, but you can bet that a hell of a lot of them were. Professionals, I mean, people who aren't going to need to go into the witness protection program. And one of the reasons that we can be sure that this happened is that this was an act of war, and the people doing it are not, I mean, they're nominally American citizens, but they're not Americans, they're globalists. So, our armed forces, for the first time since 1812, get to fight enemy forces on American soil. And this is an opportunity they would not have passed up. And Trump is basically the spook president. He does everything under the radar. He never takes credit for it. He's a clandestine operator himself. And let me tell you, the one thing that clandestine operators admire the most about somebody is their ability to keep their mouths shut. And Trump can keep his mouth shut. So can Pence. And so can Grinnell. Remember, Mike Pompeo went to North Korea when he was head of the CIA, and it didn't leak. So again, if you think that Trump couldn't have pulled off a clandestine military operation to get the goods on the people who tried to steal the election, then, I mean, you're nothing's penetrated in the first 4 years of the Trump administration. Trump pulled off tons of clandestine operations, and the USS Jimmy Carter came back from the Pacific in 2017 flying the Jolly Roger twice. And the Jolly Roger signifies a successful combat mission. What they did has never been leaked. So yeah, we have the capabilities, we have the president, and we have people who are keeping their mouths shut. When Pence finished up his press conference as head of the coronavirus task force and walked out with a serene smile on his face, the press was hysterical. Now, why is the press, and why are the Democrats, and why are the Democrat supporters all hysterical and Trump's people are calm and serene and cheerful? Trump was playing golf earlier today. You got to ask yourself that. So, I've linked the article about I've linked the Cyber Command website and the Wired article below. And so do your own research on Cyber Command. You can absolutely bet that they were used in this operation. And there would have been private citizens. We have a lot of patriots. A lot. And just to reiterate one last time, Trump got his landslide election. Over 400 electoral votes, somewhere between 410 and 420. So he slaughtered Biden. And Biden had the entire global press behind him. So the press is already dead. but we need something that will force that dead body, that walking dead body, to lie down in its grave and let itself be covered with dirt. Um, and Trump's going to do that. I mean, this stealing a national election is, people could say, it's treason. No, it's an act of war. It's an act of war. All right? Especially since we don't know how many foreign powers were involved in this. Um, so, the the people who volunteered to defend the Constitution and against all enemies, foreign and domestic, they were like, let me at him, let me at him. Where is he? Where is he? Turn me loose. And so Trump did, and they did their thing, and
all good things to those who wait.
Click.